Hi everyone, so this is going to be a video on what I'm doing with my writing. I'm going to read you about 3 new poems that I've written. I told my friend last night we were having a conversation that I wanted to make a video on my poetry, but I'm also, like I said, going to talk about, what I'm currently doing. So I'm working on 2 projects. I was working on 3, but I'm going to put the other one on hold because I wrote a lot of that one. Not a lot, but I wrote a fair amount of words. But I also started rewriting that, and I kind of like both in some aspects. So I have a lot of editing to do to, make this story make sense, get all that done before I go on to the next part of that story. And I've decided to look into the site called Swoon Reads, which is basically teen romance or young adult romance. And you put your story up on the site, and the most liked is, I think, read by the people who run it. And so there's chances of publishing contracts, within that site. Now, the challenge for me is while I enjoy young adult the most, even more than adult books, my thing in reading is usually between children's and young adult. Though I do enjoy my adult books, but for the most part, those are my favorite. Like I said, while I do read a good amount, the romance, well, I don't hate it. It's really not my thing. I could care, I don't care one way or another if romance is in there or not. Sometimes it can add to a story if it's done right. It is not all sappy and wishy-washy love, you know, all this making out and this and that kind of stuff. It's if it's actually based around an actual relationship that people build throughout the story and it makes sense, then that is enjoyable. Um, and I'm kind of rambling here. Sorry. That is what I want to do in my story. My story, how would I describe it? It's not the same plot at all. Okay, so I don't think that it has anything to do with this story, but this is just an example. I want my story to kind of be like The Fault in Our Stars. Um, I'm like halfway through that book and I'm loving it. I want those kind of characters that kind of sorrow but humor and just kind of like realistic kind of things. I mean, to me, it's more realistic. But anyways, yeah, it's not about uh, cancer patients or anything like that. But I'm just using that as a basis, as an example is what I mean. I'm still like on the first page of that because I originally was. I still have the same idea that I did months ago, but I'm taking it into a different direction in the beginning. Um, while some of the characters are the same and they do the same things or behave in a certain way that is still the same, some of the outcomes of their actions are going to be different than what I was originally um, writing. And the new idea I have, I like much better. And while it is going to be young adult, I will say that the story I'm writing probably should be read by somebody at least 16 and older. I mean, I was kind of more, I was more of a mature child growing up. Um, certain circumstances forced me into that, and I think a lot of it's just my personality. So I was a little bit more mature when I was younger, but for the general readers or audience, whatever you want to call, yeah, the general readers basically, what I'm writing, what I see in my head right now, I wouldn't recommend to anybody probably under 15. Um, I plan on, you know, my story obviously talking about romance because that's what they want, but it's going to have to do a lot with, equality, marriage equality, the LGBT community, all different kinds of people, you know, people facing discrimination and hatred. Um, there will be mentions of death and suicide and all of that. I'm kind of planning this out in my head, so yeah, that's the story I'm writing. I won't give too much away. I don't know too much about it. I know a lot about it, but I'm still in the process of writing it. So I'm curious to see what the hell I'm gonna come up with. And even if I don't get a publishing contract off of this, I at least hope people would enjoy it. I'm not the best editor at all. I mean, I can do a, I, I'm decent at it, if it's over somebody else's, but I've learned you need to be patient when you're trying to be both editor and writer, for your own stuff. So that is the first project. The second project is a book of poetry. Now, this right here is the book that I self-published last year. And I did one of those memory things, like on Facebook, and I couldn't remember. I couldn't believe that it had already been a year since I, put this out. And I'm a little disappointed that I don't have anything else out. I mean, I know sometimes it takes writers a long time, before they release anything new, and it's only been a year. But yeah, I wanted at least more poetry out by now, but I just kept rewriting things because I wasn't satisfied. This right here, yeah, as you can see, it's very small. I think it's only about 52 pages, it said. My dumb computer wasn't, on the program I used, wasn't very good at, like doing that whole page number thing. It was a weird setup. But anyways, and from what I've seen, this right here is a lot better than the Kindle or, ebook version, which I think there's a couple of decent ones, but I think this one came out print-wise, better, which is kind of disappointing, but you live, you learn, I'm probably going to be a lot more patient now with the ebook setup. But, yeah, a lot of this right here was written when I was a teenager. So, I mean, not all of it, it's kind of a mix. So, a lot of it is kind of, it sounds like it was written by a teenager. I mean, at least to me it does. I don't know about anybody else. The new poetry I'm working on, however, much like my novel I'm working on, will probably be more towards a older audience. Where this one kind of flip-flops between a very dark poetry to limericks. Like here, I start out one that says, "Dog had a friend named Frog. They would sit together on a log." That's one. And then one I wrote when I was 16 called Heaven Without Angels. It starts, I hear the world quietly weeping in great sorrow. They mourn the death of a new happy tomorrow. So, as you can see, this one was pretty mixed. I am proud of it in a way that I got something out there, even though a few people know about it. But my new poetry, I didn't want to focus so much on rhyming. I wanted to focus more on the message. I had a lot to say when I was younger, but I feel I've matured where I can hold people's attention now without having to rhyme. Because people have it in their head. I did. And a lot of other people, because I've heard it. People have this thing that poetry is supposed to rhyme. It's good when it does. It can be fun. It can flow very well. But not all poetry does. There's poetry that is purposely not meant to rhyme. I know haiku doesn't rhyme. I don't think any haiku is supposed to rhyme. But yet, it's a lovely. They're very short poems, straight to the point, but usually very beautiful. So, now, I will read you my 3 new poems. Now, understand that I just wrote these. Some of them very recently, so I don't know when they go to being in a book, if they're going to be exactly how I read them now, or if I'll change them. I don't know yet, but this is what I have so far. This one right here I wrote and I sent to my friend, and according to her, she loves it. I really didn't make any changes to it except maybe if I misspelled something or whatever. This one is kind of like, I thought about it for a few days, and it's been one of my favorite of the new ones because it's very like personal and everything. So I don't have a title for this one yet, but I think I'll just call it Sailboat because that's kind of a recurring thing in it. So here is Sailboat. 7 a.m. He munches on an off-brand of cereal. It's 10 minutes of mommy this and mommy that. The occasional I love you, all between the crunches. He finishes his cereal, and I comb his hair. I see him smile, and it brings me back to a life I had nearly forgotten. Every time I get lost in a sea of I'm not good enough, he builds me a little sailboat, built with you're the best, and that looks beautiful on you. All in his own language, of course. But still, the sailboat is sturdy and strong. But still, the little sailboat is sturdy and strong, sorry. It may rock with the waves, but it never tips, and together we sail to lands of make-believe. Once with bath towel cape superheroes and cardboard rocket ships. Once with friendly dragons and singing dandelions. Here they are not weeds, but sons of the fields. Here the dark is not to be feared, as it is a time to visit with our friend the moon. And the stars will sing us soft lullabies as we drift back to the morning on our sturdy little sailboat. This next one, I kind of came up with on a whim. I wanted to do something that was kind of relevant to what was going on today with a little bit of symbolism. So I kind of used the ABCs, and this one is just like all over the place, and it probably needs some editing, but I like it. So here goes the second one. So they say X must love Y must love X. But what if Y falls in love with another Y? What if X decides that both X's and Y's look kind of cute? Or maybe, just maybe, Y doesn't care about the shapes of other Ys or X's. Maybe Y is in love with the vibration that they bring with their sounds. Maybe B looks around and quietly says to herself, sometimes I feel like a C. So who is A or Z to tell them who they should be? Maybe A and Z are so bitter because all their life they've been forced into a box. So go tell E, F, G to let A and Z know that they can be anything they want to be. They can be anyone. They can be any way they choose to be. And then the next one is, again, quite personal. I was feeling a bit down, especially about a certain person or people. I won't go into too much detail. But it was one of those poems that needed to be written. Even if no one else heard it, it needed to be written for myself. So, here goes. Another untitled one for right now. I offered you my hands to pull you to the shore, but you decided that you'd rather drown. And I stood there helplessly as the waves kidnapped the girl I used to know. I saw her splashing, trying to catch her breath, but still never screaming for help. I guess the waters in one's soul can become so frigid that they numb the voice. A storm of heartache and anger rained hatred over the girl who used to believe in angels and thought she could be a rock star. I'm sorry there were monsters I could not kill for her. Monsters I pretended were loving because the truth tore me from the inside out. And I know I made it worse when I tried to convince myself that they had halos just because they didn't show their horns. And I can blame it on a bad day at work or the weather. But the truth is, I swim in my own burning lake a little more now that she is gone. Perhaps it is because I want to know how it feels to die while you're still breathing. I never thought that was possible until I heard you speak with your living voice while I watched the girl inside you decay. And I want you to remember that when you say I didn't love you, that I am writing this so I don't have to swallow liquid fire to forget your absence. So, there you have it. That is an update on what I'm doing for my writing and 3 of my new poems. I hope you enjoyed them, or at least I hope you did not extremely hate them. So, if you like this video, check out my other stuff. Comment, like, subscribe, whatever you're choosing. But I hope you at least like this video. Bye-bye.